Well, he's progressing. I think we'll know more tomorrow. But he's moving around, doing what we've asked him to do, and he tells me he feels okay. But we'll see. Again, I just think it's a day by day right now. See where.
Would it make sense to just hold him out tomorrow just because?
It depends on him. I mean, if he wants to play, if he's capable, we'll hold him out. We don't think he's ready. And but players like that, they want to play, and so we'll leave it up to what Chad and he thinks. But again, we'll know more after practice today.
You weren't happy with Santi against Carolina. Have you seen him respond in the last couple of days from that?
Well, like you would expect him to. He wasn't happy with himself either, and he's had a lot on him lately. I mean, first of all, academically, it's the hardest semester he's had since he's been here, and then we forget that he also had take a long trip back to Uruguay before we left to go to Maui, and but he's a pro with the way he goes about everything, and again, he wasn't happy himself, and which I would expect from him.
What went into Tobey playing the last couple of days in Hawaii and then having to be out last week?
Well, he hurt his ankle. Hawaii, and he's been out since then. He was full go yesterday, and if things stay like it is, he's cleared, and he had a good day yesterday, and we expect him to do it today.
Back to the preseason, it feels like y'all hasn't been at full strength much. Just how hard is that trying to get where you think this team's capable of going?
Well, it's different, but I look at it the other way as giving other guys a chance to get some minutes that we know we're going to need them all at some point in time. But obviously, we like to have everybody, and we haven't had everybody at their best yet, and everybody with its different injuries that we've worked through. But again, we're just now getting into December. Our schedule's been extremely difficult, obviously, when you think about it. But I was disappointed because we felt we should have won out. We should be undefeated, but we're not. And so you are who you are. But with that said, every night we go out, we're going to have a real test tomorrow night. It's a big week with George Mason being here and then Illinois coming in, and it's about us getting better. And hopefully we can get everybody healthy. We're certainly not going to be totally healthy this week, but we're going to keep moving forward and hope at some point in time it does. We do get everyone on the same page.
What is the benefit of immediately playing 6 teams of the quality y'all have just right from the jump?
Well, again, I don't think I did a interview earlier today, and someone asked me about if I'd ever coached a team that played that kind of schedule in November, and I know I haven't, but I also know that you think about the travel that was involved with it, going to Michigan State, then back up to Madison, and then obviously going to Maui and all that. We've done a lot of traveling, but again, you have to believe it's going to help you, and I can only tell you we break the game down after the North Carolina game like we do every game, talk about it, but also reminded the guys about it's a long way to go. You go back to a year ago, you had a team like Creighton, who went over, won Maui, came home, lost 5 straight. I think UConn last year at one time lost 5 or 6 straight, and not that I want to lose 5 or 6 straight games, but the fact is we got to be where we need to be when it counts most, and hopefully what this schedule is going to do for us is get us ready for the SEC, then hope that you can win enough games to put yourself in postseason play, and that's when you want to be at your best. He's starting to work his way back in. He hasn't been full go in practice yet, but I think we'll be able to use him some tomorrow if it goes well today in practice.
Seems like there's an uptick in upsets this year, even by college basketball standards. Have you been paying attention to the other upsets?
Yeah.
Are you using that as a message to the guys?
Well, I think they're aware of what goes on and everything, and I think if you go back every year, there are some. I mean, maybe more because we're living in it right now. But the fact is, that's the transfer portal. That teams that you think that might not. And again, I go back to this and I tell our team, I mean, you can compare scores, you can talk about this, you can talk about that, but the bottom line is every game takes on its own personality. And as much as you prepare, you try to get your team ready. I don't think in any way, shape, or form I could imagine how we played the first 20 minutes at North Carolina, but they play great basketball themselves. So you put those two together, where we weren't very good and they were terrific. It can give up 61 points in a half. I don't know if I've ever seen that in a lot of games, but other than the NBA, but in a quarter maybe. But the transfer portal, there's teams that there's no more rebuilding really. I mean, you go out and you reload your team every year, and I think you're seeing more of that now than maybe ever. Do what? Trying to get him to calm down a little bit. I think he was pressing way too hard, coming in, trying to be overly aggressive, which I was not surprised by in the least. The thing about Zakai, he wants to win so badly. He's a high-level competitor, and I know he felt he would be able to come right back and pick up where he left off, even though we kept telling him that he couldn't. But he's the kind of guy that has just tremendous belief in himself. There's no way he's going to sit there and say, well, I got to work my way back. That's not who he is. But he was trying to do too much. And but I thought the second half of the Carolina game, he started really settling back into being the kind of player that we need him to be and what he wants to be. And I think each time he goes out, he's going to get closer and closer. I don't think he's back where he will be, but I wouldn't expect it at this point in time.
What are your favorite memories of coaching at Jordan Mason back in the 40s?
You know what? I remember going there in 1980, and I was a part-time assistant at Davidson College, and I got the call. And the first thing I did, I got out the college blue book to look up where it was, and I was surprised that they had 18,000 students, but I didn't know until I got there that they only had like 500 living on campus, and it was considered the fastest-growing university in the country at the time. And I was the first full-time assistant coach they had ever hired in any sport there. And Joe Harrington, who hired me and gave me the opportunity, was the first full-time head coach they ever had. And he told me this, and it was truly a great statement. He said, you're going to learn more in the time here because we're going to have to build a program from the ground floor up. And I go back, he was right. And then I stayed 5 years, and through that time, being in D.C., got to meet a lot of people. Back then, it still is a hotbed for recruiting. And I met Mike Krzyzewski, ended up interviewing for a job with him. Bill Foster was at Clemson, interviewed for a job there. Wimp Sanderson, obviously went to work there for a little bit, but being there was an area that opened up contacts that I don't think I could imagine at the time. But in itself, watching the university grow to what it is today, and it's a special place to me. It always will be. Both my kids were born while we were living in Fairfax and at Georgetown Hospital, but some dear friends. I have one of my former players here, and I guess to answer your question, he's 60 years old, so it tells you something.
What stands out about this George Mason team?
Again, I think they play really good offensive team. They change their defenses. They're shooting. I think the three may be better than they thought they would. They're shooting the ball really well, but I still think they're more of an inside-out team, a team that they know what they're looking for, and they're going to try to keep you off balance as much as they can on the offensive end.
Coach, guys like Santi and Josiah and now Dalton, I won't say as they go, the team goes, but do you find that the other players rally around them, especially when they're playing well?
Well, I think people rally around your whole team when you're you go back when you're making shots. I've said it makes it all look good, obviously, which we've just found that out. But the fact is, over the course of time, again, I think it's always going to get down to discipline. I think it's going to get down to consistency. And I think that would be the two things that we've got to continue to get better at every day. We've got to be highly disciplined in terms of the details that go into winning. But and then the word is, what can we expect from people every night, which is consistency.
Well, what's I want Jonas to keep building on what he's done so far this season?
That he just continues to understand how important he is to us, and he can give us a component that we desperately need. I think anytime you can throw the ball inside it, Jonas is he's a really good basketball player. I don't even think he has even scratched the surface to what he can be. He knows how to pass it. He can shoot it. He's quicker than most people might think. And I think that as long as he will believe in himself and understand the expectations we have for him, I think the sky's the limit for him.